Remember this: nothing great in life happens without a revolution. Welcome to the What's a Revolution show, a show for men and the people who love them, where we discuss how men can find and embrace the revolution within themselves, where people can find and embrace the revolution within themselves. I am your host, Dr. Charles Corprew. As we always say, what is good, revolutionaries? I hope all is well. And we have been excited. We dropped the first episode of season 7 last week with my good friend, Dr. Travis Batts. And I'm going to hope at the airing of the show that you went out and voted, right? And we don't know at the airing of the show what the outcome is going to be. But I want to say this, revolutionaries, wherever we are at the dropping of this, we still have a civic duty to go out and make sure that every person, every human being in this country, on this planet, has the ability to live the life that they want to live. It is our job, no matter what the outcome of this election was on November 5th at the airing of this episode. I want to make sure that this is your part of your revolution, that you are doing your civic duty, that you are involved in school boards, that you're involved in your children's education, that you're involved at the city council level, that you're involved at the state level and at the national level, making sure that your voice is heard. Too many times we have sat back and the louder voices have said, you're wrong. I want to make sure that those loud voices have another loud voice to listen to. So please make sure, no matter the outcome of the election on November 5th, you have gone out and voted, number 1, and 2, still remain steadfast in your civic duty to uplift this country and to make sure every human being can wake up and say, you know what, I'm an American. And that's an interesting thing to say. At the recording of the show, we will be preparing for one of the greatest holidays, the greatest holidays on the calendar for the brothers of Omega Psi Phi, November 17th, 1911. Our illustrious founder said that we wanted to create something more illustrious. And I'm not knocking any of the other fraternities, right? But there's something about being an Omega man. Revolutionaries, you heard me talk about my father and this great man. He was an Omega man, died at 93, pledged in 1949. Can you imagine that? 1949, Theta Psi, West Virginia State University. And I remember as a young boy watching him hang out with my godfather, George Foster, and my other godfather, Melvin Saunders, and bring around the brothers. I was like, I always wanted to be like them. And then I was fortunate in 1994 to cross the burning sands to become a part of Lambda Omega chapter of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity. And for almost 31 years, I have loved our beloved Omega Psi Phi. And I have met some of the most interesting, most thought-provoking, most prolific, and outstanding leaders across the world. And so today I bring you, again, an ordinary show because we have someone prolific, my good friend, my New Orleanian, right? I can't even call him my New Orleanian brother because I'm not actually a New Orleanian, right? I'm not a native New Orleanian, but I'm a New Orleanian. But the man in front of me today, and you can hear that in my voice, is a New Orleanian, right? Unfortunately, the brothers from St. Aug, we were like, I don't know. He went to 35. But welcome to the show, the 3rd District Representative, right? The Honorable Shawn Lacey. Shawn, what's up, brother? How are you?
Dr. Corprew, how you doing, man? How are you?
I am well. I am well. But look, what's good with you? You're looking good, brother.
Listen, I'm ready for the revolution. I'm ready for this thing known as impact.
Yeah.
Because that's the opportunity that we have set before us. You mentioned being a New Orleanian, born Charity Hospital, for those that tune in from the Charity Hospital, baby. So proud graduate of the McDonough number 35 College Preparatory Senior High School. I love purple and gold only because of the fraternity in LSU. But I have no problem with the young men that attend St. Augustine nor any other Louisiana school. I am a proud Louisianan. Love my state, love my city, and love my people. Bottom line.
Yeah. Shawn, let's drop down there since we both, it's been a little while since I've had a New Orleanian on my show. And
okay.
Talk to me, because there's an inflection there when we talk about New Orleans, right? Why is it that folks don't ask you where you went to college, but they ask you where you went to high school in New Orleans, right? Like, where did you go to school? It's not, I didn't go to LSU. I didn't go to LSU, Monroe. I went to St. Aug. I went to 35. I went to Carr. Why is that the thing for New Orleanians?
We take pride in the community that we built within the school, right? It's about representing those educators that poured into you.
Yeah.
Those folks that made sure that you had everything that you needed to make those things happen. And when you meet somebody, and that's what I enjoy about traveling throughout this country, you'll meet folks who say, hey, yeah, he say he's from New Orleans. And the first thing you're going to hear is, well, what high school you went to?
Right.
And, well, I went to Bonham. That ain't New Orleans. That's Kim.
That ain't New Orleans.
You know what I'm saying? I went to this. That's Slidell. That's Bogalusa. So we have that pride within it.
Yeah.
And it helps us, for those of us that left New Orleans and went off to college and universities outside of the city. It just really and truly bonded us to a certain thing. McDonough 35 instilled in me a pride to be a Black educator, to be a representation for, take pride in, the funniest thing, you go to certain situations and you sound non-Black when you talk and those things. Oh, when the New Orleans slang gonna come out? Those type of things. Listen, we were challenged, much like many other schools in New Orleans, Warren Easton, St. Augustine, Booker T, Fortier, all of those schools. We had academics to challenge us, to get outside of our comfort zone. I'll never forget my 11th grade English 3 teacher, Dr. Chapatal. She told me, listen, what you write is going to be an extension of how you live. And I thought about that. So in order to enhance my ability to write, she challenged me to read. Because she taught me in 11th grade that there's no such thing as an achievement gap. And they talked about, this school was better than that school because these students achieve more. And she told me it's because y'all are exposed to things that others can't see.
Yeah.
So if you really want to address achievement, start with exposure, showing a person what he or she can become, and then helping them get there. So that's why New Orleans is always going to be everything to me, man. It's a hospitality city. It doesn't matter how long you've been down there, as you know. You travel down certain streets, you just hold your hand up because you're gonna wave at everybody.
Everybody, baby.
Exactly.
Baby, let me tell you.
So, and that's still the things that I have in me, representing my family everywhere I go. So it's outstanding. It's outstanding.
You've done well, Brother DR. Let me give you your credence, your Brother DR. I remember, if I tell a little story, I remember sitting in a little cafe when I first got to New Orleans post Katrina. I moved down. Most folks know the story. I moved down August 22nd, 2005. Right.
Wow.
And moved everything down in my nice little condo, ready to go. Somebody called and they were like, well, there's a hurricane coming. Up here we deal with it. I grew up with hurricanes. I was like, I'll get some gas and some water, some food. I'll ride it out. Decided to go to Houston to see one of the bros, Frank Turner, and his wife and his son at the time. And, Hurricane Katrina hit. But let me tell you something, Shawn. New Orleans birthed me just like it was rebirthing itself. I'm not the person that I am now if it wasn't for New Orleans. If it wasn't for the people right at that first jazz fest, that family that I can't even tell you the name of, that say, hey, look, you look like you ain't from here, but come on and sit here with us on the track as we listen to Lionel Richie, you know? And then the next jazz fest, all of a sudden, bruh, come hang out with us as we as we taking tickets. After that, there was never a jazz fest that I wasn't in front of that gate with the Row 5 bros taking tickets. Right. There is something about New Orleans and its people. It is something about the community. It's something about New Orleans that if you are there long enough, it permeates through you like nothing else. The food, the people, the water, the bull advisory. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, look, the barbecues on the bayou, Jazz Fest, Mardi Gras, Essence. It is everything. And still, I moved away 4 years ago. I still go 4 or 5 times a year.
Yeah.
It is everything. Bro, I want to move this conversation because it's interesting. As you move out of New Orleans, you get to this station of life where you decide, I want to be a man of Omega.
Right.
And there should not have been any, it was your choice, we'll put it that way, right? Nobody else. You decided. Why did you choose to be a man of Omega?
Omega Psi Phi Fraternity, I was introduced to it when I was 12 years old. A cousin who I idolize, who now is in what we term as Omega chapter.
Yeah.
Pledged Beta Sigma, Spring 84, Southern University. He was number 8 on that spring line. Birth name was Kerry Cooper. Line name was Wild E. Coyote. He was my idol as a child because he was in college and he was having all of those things. So as I would travel from New Orleans to Baton Rouge to hang out with my daddy's side of the family, he would always come, and he was the college kid. And I was like, wait a minute. He not out here changing tires. He ain't going work offshore and all this kind of stuff, which were typical good paying jobs, everything in Louisiana. But I knew I wasn't built for that.
Yeah.
You know? And he would always have these conversations with me about situational, a lot of things I didn't even understand at 12 years old. But I saw the bond that he had with his brothers. I saw the impact that they had in the community when they went to middle schools and high schools and talked. And, you know, they would step, they would march, set out hops. And right then and there, I was like, if I'm going to do anything, that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And then the opportunity to enhance the bond with him came through this friendship that we know as Omega. So, unfortunately, during the undergraduate time periods, University of Southwest Louisiana, Nicholls State University, chapters weren't on campus at the time. The 90s were rough in Louisiana. The 90s were rough.
The 90s, bros.
But I moved to Atlanta, started a family, and found the chapter, military chapter, military affiliated, spent time in the Army Reserves, 12 years, and found young men at Fort McPherson, Fort Gillem. Military chapter. They were coming from Korea, everywhere, and they were looking for a certain cut. Bottom line, you had to walk in there a certain way, and I possessed those things.
Yeah.
And they opened my eyes to the realities of it's just more than wearing a shirt. Right. It's much more than walking around barking. We got into the community service aspect of it.
Yeah.
And then being an educator, first starting in Clayton County schools, in Henry County schools, then the Cobb County school, now moving up to Virginia, it was always about having impact.
Yeah.
A lot of young people don't get a chance to have black educators in their life, let alone a black man.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that brought about a different level of commitment for me and representation. And that's really and truly what I wake up to every day.
Yeah. Bro, it's interesting that you say that because I think about we can't be what we can't see. And as my earlier diatribe of watching my father, watching Charles Jr., get up and go to work every day. He was an educator, for long 35 years, educator, principal, teacher, assistant principal, administrator. Everybody asked me, like, why do you dress so well? Dress like my father. It's simple that I dress like my father. My father, and look, my father and mother would walk out of the house like superstars, like they were Hollywood glam, dear brother. And my first job was as a teacher, and the kids would be like, you dress so well. I dress like my father. I dress like this Omega man. It's always like, wait a minute, you're an Omega? You dress well? Yeah, if you remember the bros, the bros used to dress. You know what I'm saying? And so it's interesting to hear that story, that etiology, that someone, for you, a family member, right? Like mine, a family member, was that beacon of hope for, was that model for us to move into our illustrious organization. But here's the thing, let me ask you this question. It's easy to be the bruz, and I'll put easy, right? In air quotes. It's easy to be the bruz. Why is it hard to be an Omega man?
Options, priorities, commitment. Those are the things that's tested as an Omega man.
Yeah.
You can put on the shirt. You can show up to the event, show up to the party, and have the greatest time.
Yeah.
Knowing you're going to get all the love in the world. But when you can look beyond the letters and see how to make an impact that will change everything around you, and really, I'll say it this way. When you can truly experience the 133rd Psalm, to behold how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. See, a lot of times they think that unity is just us being on the same page. That unity that they referred to then, as I digested, was one of doing things that others couldn't fathom us accomplishing. Because think about it, during that time period, they were building temples,
right,
without the tools that we know today.
Yeah. Exactly.
So you had hewers of the stones, you had this, you had all these things, but together they would get it done. And see, when we work as a unit within the fraternity, within the Divine Nine, we have the opportunity to then look back over the work of what we've accomplished and then get that refreshment. It was like an all point upon the head, ran down, those type things.
Yes, tell the story.
You get a chance to see when they says the dew of her mind is a dew that's descended upon the mountains of for there.
Right.
Now that there could be here.
Right.
Because if you work in your backyard, if you own your zip code, guess what you're going to do? You're going to have impact. So for me, as a leader, I want everybody to get that experience.
Yeah.
I want to expose brothers, young and old, to what this brotherhood truly brings to it. I want members of the Divine Nine to see us as that respectable unit that they look for.
Yeah.
This is, in my opinion, I'm biased. Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated is the tip of the spear in regards to being a target. Because if you can silence us with our tenacious approach to life, you will eliminate our community.
Right.
So that's why we must remain resilient.
Right.
In the search of
resolute.
There you go. In the search of manhood.
Yeah.
Scholarship, perseverance, and uplift. But don't just say the words. Live.
Right. But that's why I asked that question. Like, it's, again, air quotes, it's easy to be the bruz, to be an Omega man, and to uplift our communities. I think about the civil rights movement. Right. I think about the task of the fraternity during the civil rights movement and movements that came after, where the fraternity was at the front and center. We saw stalwart, upright Omega men, right? Standing sturdy, and I wonder in 2024 and beyond, how does the frat still stay at the forefront? How does the fraternity still make sure that as we climb, we are pulling those brothers, those younger brothers, right, up to make sure that they have models of leadership? And I'm not just saying that, right? And revolutionaries, if you're listening to this, right? Yes, I'm talking about Omega Psi Phi, but we have black leaders, we have black male leaders, we have leaders who are in the resistance, in the movement everywhere. It will be up to you to make sure that younger generation is coming behind you, but you have to make sure that you know the tools, the language of how to talk to them. How do we do that in our fraternity, right? How do we do that in our fraternity? How do we have these conversations with our younger brothers about the charge, the duty that they have for our organization and for our communities?
We first got to meet them where they are, right? You talked about the civil rights movement, and some people will say that's the days of old. We're still fighting some of those same battles today. So as a revolutionary, as a host, as someone that moves the needle for social media and beyond, you're taking on a mantle that says, I'm going to give exposure to those leaders that's there.
Yeah.
I can't sit on that just for myself.
Yeah.
I have to be able to share those opportunities with our younger brothers. We have to be able to put aside any type of differences, whether it's based on where you go to school, where you went to school. It's a different generation now. Yeah. And many of these young men that we have in the fraternity, some are not familiar with the man's voice. They may have been raised in a single family, single mother, single grandmother, what have you. And the only time they heard a man's voice was through discipline.
Yeah.
That can create barriers. That can create separation. So we have to work beyond that.
And we're supposed to break down those barriers.
That's right. So we have to work beyond it. But in order to do that, here's the word that we don't like, self-included.
Right.
We must show ourselves vulnerable. We can't sit there and think that we've had it all together all the time. Young brothers, as you know, as we would say, the bros.
The bros.
First thing they want to do is set out marches. The minute, and they look at me as a district representative, my colleagues, my contemporaries, and be like, y'all don't know nothing about this until we do it.
Right.
And explain to them it was a maturation process for us.
That's correct.
So when I can show you that, yes, we used to do these things, social media wasn't our enemy. It was not. So instead of keeping that tag of it being an enemy, let's start showing brothers how to flood social media with the positive things.
Let me tell you. Yeah.
In the 3rd district, we challenged the brothers, and good friend of both of ours, Orlando J. Allen. J. Allen.
Yes.
Great young man out of Atlanta, Georgia. We only argue 2 times a year, and that's when the Saints and the Falcons play. But I love him to death. When I first got here to what is now known as the 3rd District, Northern Virginia area, I met Jay. We were working as contemporaries, as boss alive our chapters, chapter presidents. And he said something to me, and I say it everywhere I go now. We have to own our zip code. And owning your zip code means taking care of every aspect of it.
Yeah.
The full spectrum. So never allowing yourself to get too high that you're looking down on someone.
Yeah.
Or too low to where that you're looking up in envy. Keep the level so that you can see that certain things are achieved. Help a young man understand what you went through. I was not a 3.5 student in school. You see all these things now. You see a lot of that is God's grace and mercy.
Yeah.
Give that credit and help that young person, male or female, understand what is there. Last thing in regards to that, I'm the father of 2 young men. Thank God for both of them. My youngest boy, Kevin, shout out to him, turned 25 yesterday.
Oh, wow. Congratulations, brother.
We have conversations, and it's this level of hyper masculinity. You saw it coming. That is killing our community. You either got to be, or you're not. And that is so unfortunate that we have allowed manhood to be placed into a bucket. And social media is taking it and doing it. My grandmother told me to kill a black family is to kill a black man.
Yes, that's correct.
So in their day, the black man was not allowed to be educated. He wasn't allowed to be educated. There's certain jobs you get. I just returned from Nigeria, Lagos, Nigeria.
Yeah.
I'm in Lagos with charter and chapter in Lagos. I proudly say that I'm the principal of an elementary school in Virginia. A man looks at me and says, "You have no real job. You're doing the work of a woman." I'm 6 foot. Look, I'm 6'2", 300 plus pounds. I'm looking at him like, "Hold on, buddy."
Wait a minute.
Wait a minute. That's the perception that they have over there about men that are educators. We have to be able to show that we can persevere through all of those type of things.
Yeah.
Eliminate the isms and the schisms and show that a man does not have to be so bravado at all times. It's not about having the biggest piece of chicken anymore. It's about making sure that we are able to provide some type of guidance in multiple directions for young men.
Yeah, I agree. I fully agree with that. The push here, though, dear brother, is that there is a mystique and stigma that comes with the bras.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Yes.
There's a mystique and stigma. There's a culture that comes with being the bras, especially when you are, younger than you and myself.
Right.
There's an elder statesman, the charisma that walks with us these days.
Right.
However, in saying that all the things that you just said, how do we as an organization grasp with the juxtaposition of that, what you just said, that, that mystique and stigma that goes along with the bras, but also that there's a potential that we are harm. There's a harm to that, a long-term harm to the adoption of that behavior. And I'm saying this now as Dr. Corprew, who studied hypermasculinity for a long time, right? That there's a harm to that. That how do we as leaders, you and I in the fraternity, continue to understand that we are the bras, but we are also beacons of light and leadership across the community. Right? We are the safety, right? We are the safety net. And so how do we balance that?
First thing we got to do is like we did 2 weeks ago and show up. Be where they are.
Yeah.
As you saw, many folk, man, that's the DR? He had homecoming?
Yeah.
What? Wait a minute. You got to first show up. Because the more I show up in your life in multiple areas, that increases the potential of you listening as well as watching.
Right.
And then I can be that example. Now, then I have to accept the onus that says, I understand my responsibility. Let's show them the right way.
Let's show them the right way.
Let's show them the right way.
Right.
I had the opportunity to participate in some homecomings this weekend. Young brothers, I don't know where this came from, but I was able to curtail it just by being there.
Right.
This generation walks around with liquor in a bottle, just wide open, no discretion, no nothing. They would see me and instantly try and hide. So rather than letting that go, I would ask the question. If you were so proud to bring it out, why are you hiding it now? Should you be looking for another? I'm not here to destroy you, but let's look at it. Because if you're going to continue to sneak and hide this way, that's almost an act of your character. So let's look at this.
Right.
Your character is who you are with or without letters O. That's your character.
With or without the DR in your presence.
With or without. Your conduct is what changed when you saw me. I want to build your character.
Yeah.
That says they have other young men out here over the age having libations. But you don't know it because they don't want the world to see.
Right.
Build those things. So how do we address it? We have conversations with them.
Yeah.
We let them see us as the example. And be prepared for the pushback. We can't give up when they show resistance.
Yeah.
We just cannot. We can't afford to. We've lost enough because of that.
Right. And we also have to understand some of the greatest black men in history have been Omega men.
Correct.
Some of the greatest leaders in our country, some of the greatest leaders across the world have been men of Omega.
That's right.
And so understanding that, and I will even break it down. Some of the greatest leaders on our college campuses have been men of Omega. And what does that mean? It means that we can sit at these bastions of leadership and lead proficiently.
Correct.
Imagine that. Imagine that, right? And I'll say this. Imagine that. The bros sitting at these bastions of leadership and leading, being examples. You know, that is what my father was. That is what your cousin was. And as we think about Founders Day, right? As we think about Founders Day, and I want everybody, fraternity, sorority, think about your founders. And then think about your fraternity or sorority or organization. And is this what our founders wanted for us? Are you living a life similarly to your founders? And that is an interesting thing to me as we think about our four founders and the inception of what we love so much. And I know if you're listening to this and you're in a fraternity or sorority, you think about this, that you love your fraternity or sorority just as much as the DR and I love Omega Psi Phi fraternity. The fellowship, the camaraderie, the love. But I think about this for the DR that I remember as a neo going out to the Bay Area and not knowing anybody, and called one of the Beta Delta bros, Lindell Bowden. I was like, I'm going out to the Bay. Do you know anybody? Gave me a couple names. He's like, call Dennis Florence. Spring, you know D-Flow.
Yeah, I do.
Spring 87 side chapter. Right?
Side chapter. Morehouse
Spring 87 side chapter. Dennis Florence. And D-Flow had just gotten married, and he came and picked me up. I called him, and he was like, I was like, look, a couple brothers said I should call you. He's like, cool, I'm going to come get you. Man, bro came, quizzed me up. For the last 31 years of my life, man, whenever I see that brother, it is like homecoming.
That's right.
It is like homecoming. His wife, right? They had their first Thanksgiving, and I spent their first Thanksgiving with them in their house out in the Bay Area. We hung out. Blue was another bruh from Mississippi State bruh. Kurt Inman. My brothers took care of me as a young pup out in the Bay, not knowing anybody and not knowing a whole lot. But that's the thing, dear brothers, that when you find something and find your people in your community, there's nothing like being the bros. And I'm sure the Kappas or the Sigmas or the Alphas or the Iotas would say the same thing, but there's nothing like being the bros. There's an infection. There is the bravado. But let me tell you something. When you're sitting around Omega men, there is no other experience that I would want to be a part of. The laughter, the camaraderie, the love, the affection, all of that. Family. And when you come from an only child parenthood, or only child family like myself, the men of Omega have been the only brothers that I have.
Right.
You know? And that's a thing. And I think that we have a duty now as we move, you know, up the chain, right? As our teeth get a little bit longer, Brother DR.
Yep.
We still have the ability to reach back and lift up. But look, as our time gets short, I want to think about this. I want to think about, we talked earlier about the civic duty of us. Like I said, at the airing of this show, the election will be over. But one of the topics that was coming up a lot was Black men voting for Donald Trump. And maybe that was a narrative. We'll see how that played out. But I haven't asked anybody this question, but I would love to get your narrative or your take on why we're seeing so many, why we're seeing some of our Black men move toward what I think is a toxic masculinity. And even some of our brothers of Omega have moved to this belief that this is the way to go. And I can't tell you one way to go, but it's interesting to see that when I believe that the principles of Omega Psi Phi are in contradiction of this. So I would love to know your thoughts.
We talk about certain things within Omega that are more action than spoken. How we uplift and protect our women as they travel throughout. In order to truly do that, you as a man must have a level of comfort to where that you can stand where you stand.
Yeah.
And understand that supporting this sister is a support for the entire community.
Yeah.
We don't know the scars that men have had to overcome, because everyone's had their own walk and their own journey. Some could have a fear that a woman leader means that a man is inferior.
Tell the story.
That could be something that's driving you. Some could feel as though with a woman as a leader, other countries, others will not respect your authority. The challenge comes to look beyond the isms and the stereotypes to truly what's needed the most.
Yeah.
I don't care if you refer to a biblical reference, a community reference. Women in leadership have been around since the end of time, since the beginning of time.
Right. Kings and queens have ruled together.
Yes. And it's about elevating and escalating our community.
Yeah.
That should be the driving force.
Yeah.
I'm not saying, once again, I'm a shout out my grandmother. I'm gonna send this to my cousins. They're gonna know all these things. My grandmother taught me that all skin folk ain't kinfolk.
Right.
However, if we are cut from a cloth that has the same hue and or shade, and I hold you to the standards that we know to have, we can get further together.
Yeah.
And that's what it's about.
Yes.
It's about being together, because right now when you talk to brothers, it just individuals, period. When they get into the political stance, everyone is defensive. Everyone is defensive. And my only question to them is, what's the best move for the country? How do we talk about, in Omega, we talk about self-abnegation.
Yeah.
Self-sacrifice.
Right.
Are you willing to lay down your pride in an effort for your entire community to move ahead?
That's the revolution.
That's the revolution.
That is the revolution. And it's interesting that you said it, and thank you for that, because I think about this, right? I think about, I see the divisiveness in this country. Like, we see it play out. And then I see the divisiveness in our communities because of misinformation and misinformation and misguidance, in my opinion. Now, revolutionaries, this is just my opinion. So, right? Because if the upliftment of our community is the goal, the revolution is self-sacrifice. The revolution is self-sacrifice. It is not about my tax bracket. It is not about the cost of my home. Right. It is about the living. Can the cost of my home, right? Can I live in a community that the folks beside me are doing just as well as I do? Can we have livable communities and livable wage jobs? When I look around, right, it ain't just me, because we've pulled others up. Just because you got a tax bracket, right? You want to I want to lessen my taxes too, but I want to make sure, look, I want to make sure that my people can be in the same tax bracket that I can.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing that is interesting to me, to see the narratives play out, to see the name calling. And I'm like, wait, what? Yeah, I'm going to say this. To see the name calling that happens in our community when we have a differences of thought.
Right.
Revolutionaries, Omegas, Kappas, Iotas, Sigmas, Deltas, AKAs, SG Rows, Zetas, whoever's listening to this, right? Whoever's listening to this, this is not who we are. We are not a country of name callers. We are not a country of, because my ideology is different, I don't like you, I can't fuck with you, excuse me. We are a people. We are a community of people. We are, unfortunately or fortunately, we are Americans.
That's right.
Brought together, right? It's interesting that we talk about immigration. All of us somehow, forced or not, immigrated here. Our ancestors are immigrants. Remember, we robbed the actual native people of the land that we're living on. I'm just saying that, right? I'm on my thing right now. But what happened? What would happen? That's what I want. I would love to sit in a country and I would love to be sitting at the airing of this show and saying, maybe my country is coming back. Maybe the darkness, that this cloud that has been hovering, maybe it's coming back. That, right? I can have a cigar or a Coke or a old fashioned with somebody who doesn't think like me, but we can come together and say, you know what? I hadn't thought about it like that. Instead of saying, you know what? I can't mess with you. I'm gonna call you names. Like, you should hear the names that it's just ridiculous.
You know, you mentioned something earlier that I'm harking back to. You talk about being revolutionaries, right? Which I totally buy into. Even in my place of work, they refer to me as the rebel rouser. The rebel rouser. And I did. But you mentioned Katrina.
Yeah.
I remember seeing pictures and videos of folks in boats, their personal boats, trying to help folks out of roofs, attics, what have you. I never saw anybody ask them what their political.
No, not one bit.
And nobody asked them what job they had. Nobody asked them what kind of car just floated away. It was about humanity. It was about doing what we know to be right.
Right.
The question that I always ask is, how you gonna let somebody else tell you what you already know to be true? That together we're able to accomplish more. It doesn't matter from that vantage point. Do I want you to have pride in who you are, where you came from, what you've had to work through, persevere? Yes. But do it in your actions.
Yeah.
Not your words. And don't mistake some of this propaganda that's being pushed to where that hatred really gets you paid.
Right. Exactly.
You know, I mean, so the rap songs that diss people, that's what you're going to hear more of. The videos that show somebody fight, that's what it could be one video for 12 seconds. They're going to loop it together for a minute. And you're going to think the entire world
is on fire.
Yeah. As we sit here today, you've alluded to it several times. We know what we hope the outcome to be. We know what we hope. And at the essence of it, we just want what's best for the country.
Yes.
The fear that we have to face is that everybody in our country may not want the best for us.
Yes. Ooh. Yes. Yes. And that is a chilling thing to internalize. That those in the country may not want the best for us.
Right.
And you said something that stands with me, that right, people ask me, what's my worldview today? How do I look at the world? My worldview began as a student at Green Run High School in Virginia Beach, Virginia.
Okay.
Right? A third black, third Filipino, third white. Teachers of all hues, genders, and complexities. Wiley French was my principal. I got to go to school every day with people who cared about me, who cared about my well-being.
Mm-hmm.
Every day. Every day, somebody asked me how I was doing, what are you doing, where you're going, how you going to get there, can I help you get there? What can I do for you? And as I think about how that worldview shaped Brother DR, right there, that foundation of my worldview, and where I am at 53 years old, you said the word humanity. I want to see your humanity. I want to embrace your humanity. I want to love on your humanity, regardless of who you are. Because I want you to say, I woke up today and someone saw me.
Mm.
Can you imagine that? If we just woke up every day and saw people.
That's right.
I see you. That would be amazing. Instead of saying, I don't want to be near you. I'm going to move away from you. I'm going to dehumanize you.
Right.
I see your humanity. Where would we be? And that's the fears that we see a side of this where people said, like you said, they don't have the best interest in us. And I'm scared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As we look to truly hold up the mantle of revolutionaries, of being those that can be beacons of hope,
yes,
beacons of justice, and exhibits of love. The one thing for every viewer that's out there, please understand that one thing is growing in our community that we really got to take shape of. As it stands right now, I serve as an elementary school principal, pre-K through 5. We have some children dealing with some mental illnesses, mental impacts that they should not be facing right now. Those children become teenagers, adolescents. They become young college students. They become young adults. We have to. The mantra within Omega Psi Phi is, brother, you're on my mind.
Yes.
The mantra that I adopted years ago was call a bro Wednesday. Just call someone. Yeah. Have a conversation. Share a moment of uplift. And you'll never know the power of a phone call until you make one.
Yes.
That's part of our challenge, to start with the humanism.
Yeah.
Or the humanitarian approach to this thing. We cannot afford to overlook our brothers and our sisters.
Yeah. No.
We cannot. Because we don't know the day nor the hour when we might not be
right
in the fell clutch of circumstance.
That's right. Lord, you're right. And that level of invincibility should bring you back to understanding the humanity of the world.
Yes, sir.
Because if you understand that at any given point in time, that's it. You should see everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
Brother DR, I truly appreciate this time with you. I have to say this, like from the time that we met, sitting at that table, I got to give a shout out to the Brian Tyler, my man. All right, my big brother from James Madison University, Beta Delta Delta. Good, big shout out to the bros of Beta Delta Delta. My second home. Thank you for opening your arms to me and giving me life. Right, just as much as Lambda Omega, giving me life and allowing me to come back home and be with you and be amongst you. I am truly indebted for all of the love shown to me by the brothers of Beta Delta Delta. But I got to give a shout out to Brother Brian Tyler, who asked me to speak at Zeta Omicron 75th, if I'm correct.
That's right.
Anniversary. And Shawn and I began to have a conversation. I was like, wait, you from where? And then we began to chop it up about our home's experiences. And we have been friends ever since. And so I want to say my gratitude for you, dear brother. Thank you for your amazing leadership of our 3rd district. I know that it is not easy. Leadership is not easy. Leading the men of Omega is not easy, but you do it eloquently, proficiently, and with flair. And so I am grateful for your friendship and for your brotherhood. So thank you.
Listen, I want to thank you for allowing this platform to grow into a fashion. I would be remiss as a member of the Supreme Council of the Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated on this November 4th of 2024 not to encourage those men of Omega, those members of the Divine Nine, to encourage men of Omega that they know to remain financial and active.
Yeah.
Brothers, we need you because the work is plentiful. We just need more workers so that we can get it done. We can impact not only our community, but help drive the Divine Nine in the direction. We're getting a lot of publicity with this election and people trying to defame us and those kind of things. Come back to your respective organization, Omega Psi Phi, whatever part it is for the Divine Nine. Let's do something great as a unit. Let's start with one person and watch the exponential growth so as that we can have the impact that we want to see. So 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now, they're talking about us in the way that we talk about our founders. Yeah. Who, let's not overlook the fact, the majority of our founders of Divine Nine organizations, definitely the Elite 8, were college students.
Yes.
19, 20, 21, 22, 23 years old at max, that set these principles in place over 100 years ago that we now try to uphold.
Right.
Let's remove ourselves and our egos from the equation and get back to the basic principles that they left us with.
Yeah.
For Omega Psi Phi, friendship is essential to the soul.
Yeah. And that, revolutionaries, is the revolution. I don't even have to ask the question. You just answered that question. What's your revolution? Right there. That's it. Our founders were revolutionaries. If the goal was to uplift our communities, right, to bring professional Black men and women out into the world, to have them congregate together, dear brother, to make, as you said, what? Impact.
Impact.
They were the revolutionaries. And it is our job and our creed to come behind them and keep the revolution going. Dear brother, I appreciate you. Revolutionaries, you know that I love you, that I'm here with you. That if there's anything I can do for you, make sure that you reach out Charles at whatsyourrevolution.com. Make sure you go to the website, see all the resources that we have for you. If you don't know how to answer that question, it's right there on the website for you, how to answer that question, right? We walk you through all the things that you need to go through to come up with that answer of my revolution is. We look forward to seeing you the next time. And remember this. Nothing great in life happens without a revolution. We'll talk to you soon. Take care, everybody. Peace.